Well, so as I got involved in the redevelopment downtown at the Science Center, I started reading a number of books about how the human brain works, and you can interpret that in many different ways. But what I'm going to talk about today is comes out of this book. It's called The Runaway Species, and it's written by a neurologist and a composer, music composer. And so the one question that I will raise out of this is what makes people different from other species. And he talks about a very simple concept. We as human species ask the question, what if? And what if, of course, is both a blessing and a curse, but what if is basically the basis of creativity. And creativity is really the ability to kind of come up with new ideas, and we keep combining things to make new ideas. So I give you this quote here. Part of your DNA is to create. So create, not for the money, not for the fame, not for recognition, but for the pure joy of creating something and sharing it. Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, I had the privilege of hearing David speak about a year ago at, I think, a lab retirees group. And David talked about, one of those things that almost sounds like a contradiction, a living oxymoron, Livermore Airport, which is a government corporation sort of thing. And it actually is immensely successful. It was an exciting business story, an exciting story. And so I was looking forward so much to introducing, particularly with a Canadian-American president, David Decote. And then it turns out through the tyranny of the English language, his name is pronounced Dakota. So I lost my ability to sound cool and sophisticated. David is a remarkable manager, a neat person, has a great story to tell, and there are a couple of jokes in there. And I particularly appreciated that John Shirley, the patron saint of the Livermore Airport, would get to hear this talk. So David, it's your audience.
All right, well, good afternoon. First and foremost, thank you for having me come speak today. I'm always happy to talk about the airport, always really excited, something that is really passionate for me. Just to give you a little background about myself, I am a Northwest native from the Seattle metro area. Grew up there, that was home. Started flying at a young age. Actually got my private pilot's license at the age of 17. When a lot of people were taking limos to prom, I flew. So I've always kind of been an airport rat. Love aviation. Got my undergraduate from the University of North Dakota in commercial aviation, which was specifically a pilot program. So I went there to learn how to fly. Got out of there, flight instructed for a short period of time. Started flying corporate, so I was actually really going 100% the flying route. Met my wife, and she had other plans for me. So I switched over to airport management back in about 2003, and been working with airports since. So I did about 11 years up at Boeing Field in Seattle, Washington. Moved down to California about 6 years ago. Spent 4 years at the Hayward Executive Airport over in the Bay, and been here at Livermore for the past 2 years. Love Livermore and love our airport. So hopefully we can I can give you a little information about the airport today, and obviously at the end I'll open it up to any questions anybody has. Some history about the airport, for those of you that don't know. The airport was actually initially started in 1926 by the federal government. It was quickly dated to the city of Livermore in 1953. And they actually conducted a study to find a location for a new airport, because the existing location off Rincon, they had some plans for other uses of it. The airport was a little smaller, so they wanted to kind of grow the airport as well as just redevelop it completely. So they started work in the early 60s on the current location that we're at today, a little further west in the valley. And eventually in 1965, the Livermore Airport, as you see today, was completed. And you can see it was about 250 acres. We had one runway that was about 4,000 feet long, and 100 tie downs, and at the time, 50 based aircraft. So what we got today, so as you can see, we've grown a little bit, so we're up to almost 650 acres total. We now have 2 runways. Our main runway, which is right here, is just over 5,200 feet long. So that can accommodate most of the corporate aircraft that you see today. You probably see a lot of corporate jets flying in and out of the airport. And then our short runway is around 2,700 feet long, so that's primarily used by general aviation aircraft, flight training aircraft, etc. One other key benefit that the airport has is we have what's called an instrument landing system, which allows aircraft to land in low visibility. So not every airport has that, so that is definitely a benefit to our airport. As I said before, you know, we had just about 50 based aircraft. Well, now we have about 510 based aircraft. So again, we've grown a little bit over the years. We have 392 hangars, which are 100% full. And we have a waiting list for our small hangars that runs about a year. To our largest hangars, it's about 10 to 15 years.
Wow.
So there's a lot of demand for our hangars. We have about 250 tie downs and 9 shelters, and like I said, about 510 based aircraft. Our mission is to provide safe, efficient, environmentally sensitive, and economically self-sustained transportation facility. The FAA designates us as a reliever airport. So what that means is there's a category of airports that have been designated by the FAA to relieve traffic from some of the larger air carrier airports. So for instance, San Jose, Oakland, San Francisco are our key airports in the Bay Area. So the primary focus of those airports is for commercial traffic. And so they would like a lot of people to kind of utilize the satellite airports that are designated as reliever airports to relieve some of that traffic to allow the commercial operations to occur seamlessly at those larger airports. So we're one of the few airports in the Bay Area that are designated as a reliever airport. Our aircraft operations, some of the things you'll see here, like I said, we do have quite a bit of corporate traffic. We do have military that does periodically come in. You may every now and then see a military jet like that, or we do get a lot of Chinooks and Blackhawks that do come in and do some practice, as well as the Coast Guard. And flight training, we have a rather robust flight training. We actually have 4 flight training flight schools at the airport, so there's quite a bit of flight training that occurs. A lot of private flying, so a lot of people just have their own personal aircraft, like I said, with all those nearly 400 hangars. Most of those are all full with people's private aircrafts or recreational aircraft. So the information I have up here, this 130,000 operations was from last year. We just got the numbers in from 2018, and we're up to almost 160,000 operations a year. At the time, we were about the 95th busiest airport in the country. Right now, we're probably around 85, and that's out of every airport. So that includes San Francisco, LAX, all the airports are in there. So we are definitely in the top 100 busiest airports in the country. This was a little chart we did just to kind of show where some of these aircraft are coming or going from. So we just took a snapshot in 2017 and 2018 of where some of these aircraft are going. So you see Hawaii, quite a few aircraft going to Hawaii, some in the Caribbean, some down to southern Mexico, and basically all over the United States. We do have an air traffic control tower, so we're what is considered a controlled airport. Our air traffic control tower is operated by the Federal Aviation Administration. So it is FAA staff that are up there. It is open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, and all flight operations are conducted under federal rules and regulations. So, like I said, all the employees up there are federal employees. The tower is not staffed at night, and during that time, aircraft can still land. They just are basically talking to each other. So that's. The airport never closes, it's just the tower folks, when they go home, pilots talk to each other. This diagram here just kind of shows you some of our traffic patterns over the local area. And aircraft will always take off and land into the wind, so those will switch based upon whatever way people are going. Typically here in the Tri-Valley, the winds are mainly out of the west, so most of the time we are landing and departing to the west. Community services and disaster relief. We are home base to the Coast Guard Auxiliary Squadron, Civil Air Patrol. Alameda County Sheriff's Office has the air squadron there. the airport plays an important role in supporting various departments for emergency response. I got some of them up there, Park District and CHP, etc. But one of the interesting things about our airport is we are one of the few airports, there's actually only 2 in the Bay Area that are kind of designated key relief airports in the event of a major earthquake in the Bay Area. The reason being is almost all the airports in the Bay itself are all built on fill. So if there was a major earthquake in the Bay, San Jose is built on fill, Oakland's built on fill, and San Francisco Airport are built on fill, Hayward Airport's built on fill, and those are the only airports inside the Bay where you can get a lot of these transport aircraft into. So what that leaves is it leaves Concord and Livermore as kind of the 2 critical transportation pieces if there was a major earthquake or disaster in the Bay Area. So we're really important. The state has a rather robust plan on getting support needs in and out of the area through our airport in the event of a major issue, catastrophe in the Bay Area. So very important for that. One of the things we're also we're the headquarters for the Wine Country fires, the FEMA response to that. So the Civil Air Patrol and FEMA set up a unit at the airport, a command post at the airport, and flew all the aircraft in and out of there for damage assessment and recovery during the wildfire. So we do a fair amount of emergency response work. We are a self-supporting enterprise, so basically we operate as a self-sustaining entity of the city. So we are a city asset, I'm a city employee, but we operate under our own budget. So basically nothing comes out of the general fund. All of our salaries and operating expenses are all covered by our customers. So we don't use any general fund or taxpayer money to support the airport. And we did contribute approximately $34 million through direct and $57 million through indirect spending in the area, and about 577 jobs. As well as we generate significant revenues to the county, city, and school district through the annual property taxes, and I'll talk about that just briefly here on kind of the economic benefit to the region. So this breakdown kind of shows you some of the payments that result from the taxes for aircraft. So almost 800,000. This was almost over 10 years ago, and it was 800,000 at that time. So we definitely estimate that it's over $1 million now, and that goes to the Livermore School District, the City of Livermore, Alameda County, and various other county and special districts. So a good chunk of this tax revenue is dispersed throughout the Tri-Valley. So basically aircraft pay property tax at the same rate as your house. So the benefit to that to the community is an aircraft only takes up a few hundred feet of property. They don't use the schools, they don't use the roads, they don't do any of that stuff, and they just generate the taxes. So it's a really good thing for our community. So we like them, and the big benefit is these aircraft are really expensive. So if you take, I think I might have a thing up there, but if you look at the, how much a single aircraft will generate based on the size. I mean, some of these aircraft are $60-70 million aircraft. So that's a lot of homes. And well, maybe not anymore, but they do generate a lot of tax revenue, but that goes right back into the community. So very important to have a lot of based aircraft here. Some of our customers, I just got them up there, I won't go through all of them, but we do have a fair amount of corporate customers in the Tri-Valley that utilize the airport. So we're really fortunate that these folks utilize our airport, and one of the reasons a lot of them choose to be in the Tri-Valley or in Livermore is because of our airport. So not every city has an airport. We're really, really happy that we have this asset here that really does help generate economic activity in the Tri-Valley. Like I said, again, it creates a lot of jobs and is just really important for the general transportation needs of the area. As well as, we anticipate the area to continue to grow, and the airport will hopefully grow with it as well. Some of the youth opportunities, so I kind of tell people I feel like I was the last generation to have an easy access to aircraft, and I really think that that's true. I got into aviation because I walked up and talked to pilots on the ramp. If you try to do that in San Francisco, you'll probably end up in handcuffs. So those days are gone. It's the world we live in. But we try to, and it's really important for me to try to have a lot of opportunities for our youth to get interested in aviation, because the opportunities just aren't there like they used to be. And so we have a lot of programs at the airport, and we hope to continue to grow those to get more young folks interested in aviation and the different options that they have and opportunities within different facets of aviation. So there's a Scouts Aviation Merit Programs. There's an Explorers Post at the airport. The airport does host through EAA the Young Eagles program, which is a great program. Gets kids up in the air for the first time, free of charge. So it's a really good opportunity for the youth to get into an aircraft. There's scholarships that are offered, robotics programs, and STEM as well. Hopefully some of you guys have got a chance to come out to some of our events. We typically host a Women in Aviation event in March. This year we postponed that because of another event that I'm going to talk to you about at the end. We have the World War II Heritage Aircraft Flights that come out for Memorial Day weekend, so that's always a really, really good turnout, and it's pretty exciting to see some of these aircraft. We have various vintage aircraft display days where people display aircraft to the general public. And our air traffic control tower does do tours for people that are interested, so because they're pretty interested, those interested to get upstairs and see what the controllers do. And then hopefully everybody's got a chance to come out to our show and open house that we hold in October. It's a really fun event. We open up the airport to let people come see what we do, get a lot of our tenants out there to display their aircraft. We do an air show component of the event, so there's always aircraft flying, food vendors. This last year, we did a little more marketing, which actually kind of got us into a little bit of trouble because we had unprecedented turnout. Caltrans called me and said, "David, please do not back up 580 again." It was a mess. So it's been very successful, and it's a great opportunity for all of our community to come out and see what the airport's all about. So we are always excited to host that event, and again, it will occur the first Saturday in October. The last piece on there, and like I said, the reason why we're not doing the Women in Aviation event this March is when I got here to Livermore, one of the things I explored was hosting what's called an AOPA fly-in. The AOPA is the largest organization for aircraft owners and pilots. It's the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. They have almost 400,000 members across the United States, and they host a fly-in. They host several fly-ins a year. This year, it's their 80th anniversary, so they were going to host just one West Coast fly-in and an East Coast fly-in. And so it's a very competitive event. There was about 100 airports that put in for to be a host airport. I responded to an RFP about a little over a year ago on this, and we were successful in obtaining the AOPA fly-in.
Wow.
So this fly-in, since again it's the 80th anniversary, they plan to kind of do a little bigger event. It's going to be the only location on the West Coast, and they anticipate somewhere between 500 and 1,000 planes coming in for the event. And it can generate up to 10,000 to 20,000 people that will come in, aviators from all over the country, specifically west of the Mississippi River. And it's an opportunity for pilots to get together, have seminars, education, and then there's also public. The public is allowed to come out and kind of see what's going on. They're going to do a huge drone show at night. I'm told it's of Super Bowl quality, where there's going to be hundreds of drones flying around. We're going to close the airport for some period of time, about an hour for them to do the drone show. So if you're around, it's going to be really fun to see, I think. And that's going to be the weekend of June 21st and 22nd. So we're really excited about that event, and a lot of planning goes into it, and it's going to be a real economic driver for the community. It will sell out every hotel room from basically Tracy to San Ramon. So there's going to be a lot of people coming in for the event, and we're going to be parking aircraft basically all over on grass and pavement. We're closing our short runway, and it's going to be exciting. But you're going to see a lot of airplanes up that week. So if you wonder what it is, we've got the big flying coming. Noise abatement. So this is an important thing. We do have the airport open 24 hours a day, as I said. So the airport doesn't close. We do ask pilots to voluntarily restrain from flying in the middle of the night, so from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., basically outside of our tower hours. Because we're a federal regulated airport, I'm not allowed to close it, but we can recommend that people avoid flying during those times, and we do that. And most pilots try to do that if they can. And one of the really good things about our airport is my predecessors did a nice job of protecting the airspace around the airport to keep compatible uses. And one of the things that is part of that, if anybody does move into an area that's within our airport influence area, they're required to sign a form basically when they sign on their house that states that that they know and understand that they are within an airport operations area and are likely to hear some more airplane noise. And this is kind of that AIA airport influence area that I spoke about, so that's that area. And we do a lot of noise abatement mitigation at the airport. We host tenant meetings, we have newsletters, we do pilot and instructor meetings, flight planning guides, and letters to pilots that are in violation. So we do work with them, and most pilots don't know necessarily that they're creating an issue on the ground. Nothing is usually intentional, so mostly it's just education, and most folks try to do the best that they can. This is an interesting slide here. So if you take a look, and actually I don't know why it says value there, but as you can see, we had a huge increase this is in 2016 to 2017. We had a huge increase in operations from 117 to almost 130. And during that time period, our noise complaints fell significantly. So when I got here, I said, hey, let's look at this and find out what's going on. Why did our noise complaints go down so much? So we did a little research, and what we found out was one homeowner moved. This homeowner accounted for like 40% of the complaints that we had at the airport, and they happened to move out of the area. Subsequently, our noise complaints went way down. Some of the upcoming development that we have going on at the airport, Five Rivers is our FBO, or fixed base operator, so they're the one that, basically it's a one-stop shop. You come in, get service for your aircraft, fuel, rental car, etc. They are looking at building some additional hangar space for aircraft. We have an airport restaurant that's currently under construction and hope to have that open here in the next few months. And we have a STEM center proposal from the Tri-Valley STEM, interested in creating a STEM facility at the airport on the south side of the airport. And Attitude Aviation, who's one of our tenants on the south side, is also interested in building some larger hangars. So right now we have a couple aircraft where they're based at Stockton or other satellite airports. Their principal lives here, so the aircraft flies over, picks them up, flies out, flies back to Livermore, then flies to another airport. So we'd love to get them based here, not just because we're going to get the tax revenue, but it also is going to decrease operations. We're going to cut our operations in half, less noise impacts, more tax revenue, and more revenue for the airport. So it's a good thing all the way around for us. So we're really hopeful to get some of these projects going. As I talked about, this is a picture here of the Five Rivers facility, which was built in about 2015, I believe. And again, they're a fixed base operator, so they handle all of aircraft storage, ground support. They'll do everything from hotels to rental cars, etc., catering, concierge services. And if you haven't seen our administration building, that's our administration building, restaurants in this facility here. That's where it's under construction at. And their admin offices are over here. So we built this building in around the same time, about 2015. And so in summary, we are a modern transportation facility, gateway to the Tri-Valley, and we're home to a lot of different aspects of aviation, like I said, from flight training to emergency response to aircraft maintenance and services, air charter, taxi, advertising, and we also have, obviously, fueling. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Does the Korean Airlines still use the airport for training pilots?
They do not. So the flight schools that we currently do have, we have one flight school that is a professional flight school that's solely for people going to the airlines, and that's ATP. And actually that huge spike that we've seen in operations, approximately 25% of that is just that particular company. So they moved over from Hayward about 2 years ago. Yes.
Okay, whenever I drive past the airport, I see lots of geese in adjacent fields. Could you comment on what you might be doing to avoid aircraft interactions with those geese?
Well, first of all, I'm going to apologize because I didn't bring my coyote photo. So we have a coyote, and it's actually kind of funny because we put this coyote out there. It's a coyote effigy, and I had a lot of success with this up in Seattle, and I bought one when I got to Hayward. Had a lot of success with it there. So when I got here, I noticed we had a lot of geese coming, particularly from the golf course. So we got our coyote, which we put it out for naming him, and his name is Wile E. Coyote. That's what the tenants chose. And he gets moved around. So the deal is you have to basically move him every 3 days, or the geese get used to him. But it does a really, really good job. Well, we put this coyote out there, and within 2 days, I started receiving calls from the city manager's office, from air traffic control, from pilots, stating, there's coyotes all over your airport. What are you doing about it? So what I did is I took a picture of our coyote and we posted it on our Facebook page saying, no, it's actually our wildlife deterrent, and he's doing a great job. We also take other measures. We have pyrotechnics, kind of like fireworks basically, that we can shoot off to scare the geese away, or any other birds that we have, and then we take a lot of other measures trying to keep our grass mowed short, and trying to avoid food sources for any wildlife that might be attracted to it. So those are some of the things we do, but again, I apologize, I didn't bring a picture of him. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it sounds like you need a couple hangars, and the property tax benefit seems substantial. And you have lots of land, so what's the main impediment to getting more hangars built at the airport?
Yeah, I would say one of the main impediments is just the process, I guess, as far as there's a lot of different approvals that are needed to build a hangar. So you're not just looking at the city processes, so you have airport process, you have city process, but then you also have the FAA on top of it. And so you've got about 3 different groups that you're working through. So it takes a long time. And so these projects that we're working on, most of them are moving, and there's someplace along in the process. So not only do you, like I said, you have your city approval levels, but you've got FAA and some of the things like this government shutdown that we recently had actually set everything behind another 6 months for us. So, I think it's just kind of the layered folks that you have to work with, because you're working with local government and federal government.
Leo.
2 questions. One, you said you have over 500 planes that are permanently there. Interesting of where these people come from that park here. Secondly, do you anticipate ever having some kind of a commercial schedule coming into our airport?
Sure. Yeah, great questions. The 500 aircraft that we have, the majority of the folks, when we've taken a survey, live in the Tri-Valley. We do have a lot of folks that do come in from the Bay, particularly the San Jose, Hayward, Castro Valley area. And most of those folks end up coming out to Livermore for a couple reasons. One primary reason is our weather. And we were chatting over here a little bit ago about how Livermore tends to clear out earlier if we do even have clouds in the morning. So our VFR weather is really attractive to a lot of folks. So some people do base their aircraft over here just because we have a little better weather for flying visual. And then we are a little cheaper than some of the other Bay Area airports, where you're in the Bay, you're going to pay the Bay Area premium. So we do get some amount of people from there. To the answer to the second part of your question, commercial service, I have no plans to entertain commercial service at the airport. The area is well served by both the 3 major airports in the Bay Area, as well as Stockton now is operating a few more flights and getting a little more to the commercial activity. One thing that I could see happen here at some point would be something like Concord has with the Jet Suite X, which is a charter operation, a charter schedule operation, which has a little smaller, 9-passenger to 30-passenger, 40-passenger seat aircraft that would operate to regional areas. Like right now, Surf Air is one of them that goes to LA, and Jet Suite X goes to Las Vegas. So something like that maybe isn't out of the realm, but no major carriers or anything like that is planned.
Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, you want to go ahead?
What's the biggest plane that can land?
Well, the biggest plane that I would say could land is 737. We did have an MD-80 based at the airport for a long time. Some of you may remember that. We also had a DC-9 base there for some period of time. So that size aircraft would be able to take off and land here.
Yes, just a bit of a corollary to Leo's question. At one time, I remember flying for the lab and taking a taxi service from here to SFO, for example. Do you envision that possibility?
Could, yeah. That kind of falls in line with that charter type operation, where smaller charter that would operate smaller or shorter routes to regional locations. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And we hear a lot about drone deliveries. Is there anybody doing fulfillment out here that you can see maybe doing drone deliveries that would impact our airport?
Yeah, so the FAA's started to come out with some guidance on that, drone operations, and right now the way it works is basically if you're within the airspace or the local area of the airport, you have to get permission from air traffic control to operate a drone. So right now, if somebody does want to operate a drone, and we get requests all the time, it actually goes through our FAA tower, but they have to coordinate with them for operations in the airspace. Now, you probably heard a lot about the issues that are going on internationally with drones. Gatwick was shut down for some period of time. So this is a really, really hot topic for us right now. A lot of us airport managers are kind of talking about how we can manage this as drones get more popular and are going to fulfill different tasks over time. So there's software out there for drone detection. The FAA has got a new software that they use that basically allows people to input their information into the system, and then they have a radar basically of all the drones that are in and around our airspace. So I think over time we're going to see more and more technology that's going to help assist airports in managing drone traffic with air traffic, because obviously there's significant concern from pilots in regards to drones, and so that's kind of where that's going.
Is that everybody, I think? Is it short?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. When the lab was more involved with NTS, there was a turboprop plane that would fly people out there aiming. Do you happen to know what happened to that plane?
I do not. I know what, I mean, the hangar's still there, obviously, and, you know, we still call it the labs hangar, so, but I do not know what happened to the aircraft. Yeah.
Well, thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
having me.
Before you go, our speaker always has two tasks. One is to draw the winning ticket, and then you have something else for our drawing. All right.
Here's the lucky one.
Okay. 3, 2, 4, 7. I'll do that after. 3, 2, oh. Okay, before you go, you have a choice of a bottle of olive oil or a beautiful bottle of wine from Bakery Point. All right, thank you very much. And
Thank you guys.
so much.